but it's from a spiritual and metaphysical meaning of it. So a lot of people speak belief all the time. They say they believe in themselves, they believe in what they do, they believe in others, but do you really? Is the question. Because sometimes you'll be tested to see if you have a belief in what you are speaking on your own self. I'm a little bit. Let me apologize a little bit to you too, first of all, because I'm outside taping this, and it's live, and we got some noise in the background, which there's cars going by here behind me. So it may get a little bit noisier than I expected it to be. Because there wasn't supposed to be that many cars out today. Here in my city, we're basically on lockdown as we are all across the country, but there's some people out moving around. But we'll get through it. It's only 20 minutes, so I'll try to speak up and be loud when I need to. But when you have a belief in something, you have to actually know that you can do whatever it is that you believe. And sometimes it's just like winning. People speak about winning in the context of, I know how to do that. But winning is a process. You have to actually learn how to win. And that's what many people don't understand or get lost in is they think that you just kind of show up and it just sort of happens. But the reality of it is that it doesn't. And so I'm going to kind of relate this to a little short story, and then we'll talk in more detail about the steps you need to take to get to belief. I coached a little league football team once, and my son played on it the last year that he was eligible to play before he moved on to the junior high level. But the team that they picked him to play on hadn't won a game since those kids had played together since they were about 6 years old. Never won a game. Didn't even know what it felt like to win. And so during the course of that season, they lost almost every game again. And so during the course of the last week for the last game, the coach came to me and he asked me would I be willing to help them for one game. So this is the last game of the season. So I asked him what did he want from me. He said, well, defensively, we can't stop anybody. Everybody's scoring about 30, 40 points on them. They couldn't score either. And so I told him I would. So I volunteered to do the last game with them. We played that game. They lost it, of course, but they only lost by 6 points. Closest they've ever been in 3 years they had played. And so after the game, he came to me and he asked me would I be willing to come back and coach an entire season with them the following year. My son was moving up to 7th grade ball at the time, so I told him I would because they were playing their games on Saturday mornings usually. So I was able to get most of our games are going to be with the Pee Wee level in the afternoon. So I told him I would do it. And so as we get into the next season and we start to get ready for the season, I asked him how did he go about picking his players and that kind of thing. He told me, well, for the most part, I usually get the kids who don't have any experience. The coaches that win and they get to pick, who they want to. And so I told him I was fine with that because I like the underdog. So I've always considered myself to be one. So we ended up picking the team. And so the first chance that he gave me an opportunity to speak to the team, I talked to them about belief. Because I needed them to believe that they could actually win since they had never won a game, didn't know what that felt like, didn't understand what it was. I had to get them to buy into what I was going to actually start to put into the program to get them to play up to a higher level than they were capable of playing. So I spoke with them, and we got the basics down of what I needed from them. And I told them all I needed from them was a want to, and the rest of it would come together as we went through the season. So all the kids agreed that they would be willing to put all the work that it was going to take in and work as hard as I asked them to work. So the coach gave me carte blanche on the defense, which is what I was going to run. And so he told me I could run any type of defense I wanted to. We could do anything we needed to do. He laid out the ground rules of what the rules were for the league, what size the players needed to be in, what position they played. And so I was able to abide by that and structure in a good defense. And so we ended up playing the 46 defense, which is a swarming type defense where everybody has to do a certain particular part in order to make the whole unit work as one. And so all the kids bought into it. We go into the first game. We play. We win 6-0. Next week we play. We win again. And so what ended up happening as we started to go through the course of the season, we win it. We get to the 5th game of the season. Now we get to the top of the team, the cream of the crop, so to speak. Teams that they had never even been on the field with, where the teams didn't score any more than less than 40 points against them. So the kids going into that week told me, Coach, this is probably where we're going to stop winning at. and asked them why were they talking like that. So they told me, since we couldn't beat these kids before, what makes you think that we're going to beat them this time? We got the same players. But I said, this is something you have that you didn't have before when you played them. Belief. You will beat them. You will defeat them. I'm going to make sure we have a good game plan. All I need for you to do is execute it. You do what I ask you to do, we'll win. We ended up beating the first team. We beat them 42-0. And they had been scoring 50 points on them every year that they had played against them. They never crossed the 50-yard line. And they had the three toughest teams that they'd ever played against back to back to back. So we had to play these teams back to back to back. So we beat the first one. We went to the second game. We defeat them 32-0. We played the final team. We ended up beating them 24-0. Once we got past them, we went on and went into the playoffs. And we lost in the playoffs, but they went 8-0 for the season. They played 8-game season. We won all those games. Now, the difference that they had between those 8 wins that we had and the 0 wins they had 3 years before I showed up is that those coaches never talked to them about believing. So once I got them to buy into that they could actually do this, they performed at a level so high up that the parents wanted every kid that didn't play defense, they were trying to get their kids on the defensive unit some kind of way. And I remember we played one game where we were winning, and we had like 5 minutes left in the game. And I took the starters off the field and put the second team players in the whole unit. The coach walks over to me, the head coach, and he says, Will, I don't think I want to do that. Because he had never won 3 games either. In 3 years, he had been getting beat. So this was his moment. He had wanted to beat this particular team all 3 years before. And so I looked at him and I told him, I said, look, these kids deserve the chance to see what it feels like to actually finish off a team that they didn't want to lose to, but for the past 3 years had lost to. So give them a chance to live that. He said, okay. He walked away from him. I called timeout, called all those kids over, and I told them, I said, look, this is your moment. So for 5.5 minutes, make sure they don't score. That's what they did. They held up the shutout. We ended up winning the game. Everybody was happy. Now, I told that story to get back to what I wanted to talk about, which was belief. Because you have to believe in something in order to make it happen. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you have adults, kids, even leaders, because you have people that put in leadership positions that won't have the skill set to be a leader. It takes a skill to be a leader as well. See, that's what a lot of people get lost at too, is they think that, okay, if I promote this person up to the position, then they already know what I want. But that's not necessarily true. So with me having a sports background and owning sports minor league teams professionally, what I always do with my players and my coaches is once I put them on the team, because they have to come through me to get on the team. But once I actually sign them and get them on the team, then the first thing I tell them is I signed you because I believe in you. So now it's up to you to make sure that what I see in you, that you can project and bring out on your own. I'm going to give you the chance to do that. So you're going to sink or swim based upon your own set of skills. I'm going to let you know what the boundaries are going to be, but after that, I'm going to turn you loose, and then you have to perform. So I make them understand that I want them to do and be the very best that they can be. And then from that standpoint, rise one step above what they think they're capable of to the next level. Because if you do that, then everything else will fall into place. And then also, those that are looking up to you, they will feel like, I can follow this person because they're willing to make sacrifices that I can see they're willing to make, so I can too. And then they'll step up and play at another level for you, or do whatever it is that you want them to do. So leadership in itself, it is something that's not taught. I mean, a lot of colleges teach it in theory, but until you actually get out and actually do the grunt work, you can't actually become a real leader until you actually come from the bottom and go through the pack and then elevate to the top. That's how you become a leader. Nobody can actually appoint you to be a leader. I can attest to making mistakes like that from time to time, where some person come to me and, look, I want to be a leader. I think I want to do this. And then I give them a chance. Now, from a team perspective, the team immediately turned on this person because they didn't have the skill set to be in that position. So they wouldn't follow them. So they come back to me and say, look, Will, they won't follow me. They won't respond to me. So I need for you to come down and help me, get the respect that I deserve. You have to earn respect. Nobody's going to give it to you. They'll be cordial with you, but you have to actually earn respect. And once you do that, then you will get the respect that you think you deserve. It'll come to you naturally from everybody. When they shake your hand, it's genuine. There's no fakeness to it. There's no, well, I'm just shaking your hand because I have to. It'll be real, and they'll go to bat for you when somebody's trying to injure you in some type of way. They'll come to your rescue and save you, even though you're not around. They'll rescue your reputation. That's what I'm trying to say. But belief has a lot to do with who you turn out to be and where you're going to go and who you can influence along the way too, because it also leads with a reputation attached to that too, because if people understand that you're a good leader, then they'll speak good things of you, and your reputation is always going to be 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you. You'll meet people at some point later or going maybe to a meeting trying to get access to a business deal or something, and these people would have already heard of you. You've never spoken to them, didn't even know who they were until you got to this point that you needed to access them, but they already know who you are. That's why you have to protect your reputation. So you want to be somebody with integrity and good character at all times. Now, you're the only human, so from time to time you will be human, so to speak. You're gonna let them. Everybody has duality to them, so let nobody tell you that you're only one way. Like, I'm a priest too, but I'm not a priest that's trying to save your soul, so to speak. So I'm not a religious priest from that context. So I'm not going to try to preach to you and get you, hey, save your soul. You're going to go to hell. That's not my responsibility to do that. So what I'm going to do with you is point you in direction to tell you, give you suggestions, and then it's up to you whether you make the choice to follow that information or not. So when you come to talk to me in a time of despair and hurt, then I'm going to try to lift you up and point you in the direction, and it's up to you to make the choices that you need to make that's going to be best for you. It's not for me to make those choices for you, but to give you a sense of direction. So that's what I try to do. And that's why I do it in business and in sports. And everything that I have an indulgence in is basically going to be that I'm going to try to inspire and lift you to be the very best that you can be. Now, some people will run from that because they're afraid, because you're going to face change and challenges with that too. So that's also going to help you grow if you're strong enough to go through that trial and tribulation though. And a lot of people can't do that, unfortunately. It ends up hurting them in the long run. It takes them longer to get to where they want to go. But everything, like I said from the top of this, is a process. You have to learn how to win in order to become a winner. And it's just like anything else that you're going to do. You have to basically pay some dues in order to get there. It doesn't come easy. Now, in this time of, I'm looking around here, the traffic going by, but in this time of strife that we're in, where we have a virus that's out there and we don't know what it looks like or what it is, we don't know if it's airborne, if it's coming from somewhere else. They don't know what they're telling you to put a mask on, which I'm sitting outside without one. I usually go walking without one. And so it's not that I don't think I can get it, it's just the word I walk. There's nobody usually walking that pathway but myself and an occasional police officer sitting in the car eating his coffee, drinking his coffee and eating his donuts. So, but other than that, I don't go to the stores when they're crowded and that kind of thing. So at this point, I'm not personally threatened with the virus, but if I get it, then, I have to take the necessary steps to try to get well and heal. But at any rate, you want to try to live your life to where no matter what you do, when you do it, you want to do it from a perspective of believing that you can actually do this. Now, in this time, there's going to be a lot of businesses that come back, right? Large and small. There's going to be a lot of small businesses that are going to go away and close, and they're not going to be coming back. And there are going to be some large businesses that are going to be scaled down, and they'll become small businesses because everything is going to be totally different when we get out of this situation. But you need to make adjustments in your own life to prepare yourself for what the world is going to be when you go back out. Because it's going to be a different world that we're coming to. Now, usually, when I speak at schools and I talk to kids, the first thing kids like to talk about is when you get talking about business stuff, how much money can you make? How much money do you make? They want to know. They call it keeping it real. So they want to know if you're talking to them about being successful and why school is important to them and why they need to go to school and learn certain aspects of the education process. You have to be able to point them in the direction that shows them why this is important to them. So I don't like to take people too deeply into my business and my companies and stuff, but I'm like right now I'm into eSports, right? So I got into this last year, 2018, last part of 2018, going to 2019. I got into eSports, and what I decided to do was eSports is such a large venture now, is not try to get in at the top of the game because it was going to cost me a certain amount of money to actually try to buy my way into a large team and that kind of thing. But what I noticed, I'm always looking for opportunities that nobody else is seeing, is that at the development level of eSports, there are very few people involved in it, right? So, and there are very few that go into certain areas or communities where kids are playing these video games, but they think that they don't have a chance because they don't have access to the information. They think that they can't make a living with it because their parents are saying it's just a video game, you can't make a living. But they're eSport players making $500,000 a year. They make more than some CEOs of small companies, okay? And they're making as much as some large company, medium-sized company CEOs are making. So they're making a good living, and there's a big following for this. But I got in on the development level. So what I did was created academies, and we look for kids from certain income levels that are playing video games, but they don't know that they can make money with it. So we test them and find out if they can do it, and if they do, then we put them into the academy. Now, the way you make money with this, because this is what the kids gonna want to know when I speak to them, is how can I make money from that? Now, this is something that they do all the time. They're playing video games and accessing the internet, and most people think that the only access to it now is influencer, right? That's not so. And influences are changing too. Word influence have kind of had this. If you got influence now, it has to be more about a social community. What can you give them information why it's going to lift them up, not for them just to follow you or spend money on your products or your services. How can you bring them along with you, right? Now back to what I was talking about my academy. So what I did was I created an academy. We have 100 kids that we enlist in this academy. It's set up like a school system setup, basically. And what we do is we take them on a semester, 6 weeks. Now, each one of those kids, either through scholarship or their parents pay $500. Okay? Now, if you do the math on that, like I said, I'm taking you inside of my business. You do the math on that, that's a large chunk of money. So at the end of the semester, I'll break it down to this. I would have cleared in a month and a half a little bit under $300,000. Now, if you do the math of that over a course of a fiscal year, I'm doing it probably, 3 or 4 sessions? That's a lot of money. That's just one company, okay? So that's what kids want to know is, if you're giving me this information, how am I going to be able to benefit from the information that you're giving me? So that's why when I speak to people, and I speak to kids especially, I want to tell them and take them inside of how you not only create a company, but what you can do to actually make money with it. I'm not just, going to throw it out that you're going to make money. I'm going to give you some figures that's going to go along with it on the particular business that I'm talking to you about, so you can get into it as well and follow up on it sometime later, right? So that's how they get more encouraged to, well, I can do this too. Because I've been playing video games, and I'm not, and this is something that I try not to do too. I don't try to get, especially kids, I want them to know that don't just be a player in athletics anymore. You want to be the general manager, you want to be the owner, the president, that kind of stuff. So I teach those type of skill sets to where you can learn to do that kind of stuff. Like we have a thing now going through sports where they're going to be data coaches, right? So what a data coach is going to be doing, he's not going to be teaching the X's and O's of whatever sport it may be or the technique of it, but they're going to be tracking data on your opponents and on your players as well. So you can see how players performing during the course of certain minutes of the game, or depending on what sport it is. And then you take that data and you can break down your opponents by, when somebody is overhyping the player so good that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, you can look at the data on him and say, hey, wait a minute. On down number 2, I see he don't rush as hard if he's playing defense in football or in baseball. Maybe he's a little, he takes a couple of plays. The baseball is a slow sport anyway, but maybe he's taking a little plays off looking into the stands. You can get an infield hit on it. So their data coaches are going to be very important moving into the future. Now, some colleges already use this. Alabama used it extensively over the last 5 years, especially when they were winning the championships. They were at the very top of the game. That's why you couldn't beat them, because they were doing things that you weren't doing. And so there's a big field opening up for all type of things and it's related to tech that you don't even think that people are doing. They're putting information together on all kind of, like I'm in tech as well. So when kids talk to me about that, we talked about them doing the eSports, but we also track data. And I think I mentioned this in the very first show I did, is we track data to the point to where any kind of information that you think is not important, somebody's tracking that information on you. And so they're selling that information. Some larger company or government, somebody's buying that information and storing it. So they know more about you. You hear this all the time than you know about you. And you're like, no, they can't. They can't possibly. They do. They know everything about you. So, a matter of fact, Amazon has so much data on you that they can sell you something when you don't even think you'll be willing to buy it because they already know what your buying habits are. And they're starting to do this in grocery stores now too. So they're going to know exactly when you buy it, why you buy it, and how much of it you will buy. Take, for instance, toilet paper, right? We're having a run on it right now where nobody can hardly get it. Now, that's a hot commodity. So why is it that you think that there's not much toilet paper out there? It seems to be out all the time at the stores. It's called shock testing, right? Where they'll test the household products that they're being sold and see how people are, going to react to it if it becomes something that's not so abundant anymore. You control that, and you can change people's buying habit. If you notice, the price of tissue doesn't cost what it used to cost before the virus became famous. Do the numbers on it. You're paying a lot more for toilet paper than you ever paid for it. So it's a high commodity, right? And look at what gas is doing, it's tanking. So it's a lot more to this one than what people think it is. But anyway, I just want to spend a few minutes talking about belief. And so we're at 22 minutes now. I said I was going to speak 20 minutes, so I'm a little bit over. But I felt that if you want to do anything in this life, that you make sure that you believe before you get into it. Or if you get into it and you've never had anybody in your family or no friends or anybody else to role model after that, then you search and research all the information that you can possibly gather on it, and then you take that and put that into your belief system and you grow with that information. And that you'll become successful at whatever you decide to do. And that's another thing, this is my last part right here, is about success. Okay, we use that term, especially here in the U.S., we oversell success, right? We talk about it. The only way you think that things are successful is if you got a lot of material aspects to go along with them. That's not necessarily true. While you do want some material things, your success basically is what you believe success is. So usually when I go out to speak, and I'm going to close with this, is everybody can't have $1 million business, right? But here's the thing about you starting your own business. If you can get up in the mornings and you're happy with what you're doing, you have a passion for it, that's all it is. That's all that matters. If you can make $50,000, $60,000 a year, or even if it's less than that, if you're happy with doing it and you can support you, if you need a little bit more than 40, you need to be about 60 or 70 to support a family. But if you're somewhere in that neighborhood and you get up every morning and you're happy, that's success. So you consider yourself being successful at that point. You don't have to have $1 million from the business just so it generates enough for you to sustain a good life where you can travel, do things, give back. Of course, you always want to be able to give back. You want to help other people. That's a must. You absolutely have to do that. If you can do those things, then you are successful. So you have to take success and flip it around from what the image of it being sold to you is to what the reality of success actually is. If you do that, you then will be successful and live a very good and happy life. So with that, I'm going to close out. And I'm going to leave you, I'm at 24:45 right now. I could still go on, but I'm going to close the show because I said I would at 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to keep my word to myself, which I've already failed myself for about 4 minutes. But at any rate, remember this. When the world is cold, love is kind. So keep that in your heart. Take that with you. And I'll be doing another show here at some point within the next week or two. And probably won't do any shows with my guest until the virus has kind of subsided a little bit and it's peaked and started on the other side. And I'll start inviting guests on to talk about their moments of a day in their life that changed, how they ended up and where they ended up going and how it inspired them to do something different that they thought that wasn't going to happen. So you just never know. Like today, there may be some of you who go and sit down after watching this, or maybe sometime later this evening or something to that effect, and a thought may come in your mind and say, wait a minute, that thing I thought about not doing, now I can do that. So be inspired and do what you can. As long as you do that, then you've lived a good life and been happy. So with that, I'm going to close the show. So until the next time, enjoy your life. Take care. Stay out of that virus too if you can. Thanks for watching.